Dr. J in the house with Evan Brand. Today, we're going to be talking about how to make your home healthier from the air, from all the different chemicals in the home that could be causing fatigue, causing brain fog, causing a lack of energy and performance. So, we're going to be dialing in just some simple changes that you can make to make your home better for you. Evan, what's up, my man? How you doing?
Doing really well. And we test a lot of people's homes. So not only do we test the body, but we test the home too. And we try to make the connection between what are we seeing in the home and then how does that match up to
Right.
the body? And a lot of times it doesn't match up, meaning people had exposure from years ago. Maybe they had a story like mine where my grandmother's basement flooded when I was a kid. I hung out in that basement and I breathed in mold toxin. I remember having cold hands, cold feet as a kid. Now I know that it affects your circulation. So sometimes it's a 20, 30-year story for people, meaning decades ago they had this exposure. Now, a lot of times though, we can still get lucky and we can find things in the current home that we can improve. And so, for example, I'll try to pull up this lab here. I had a guy in Mexico who did a consult with me recently, and he is doing literally an entire home remediation. He's got tons of gut issues from it. And I've got his I'll pull up a couple things, but I've got his stool. He's having intestinal bleeding, and he's having all these weird immune symptoms. And then when we ran his myco, he's really really high in the fumonisins, and this is a type of mold toxin that comes from water damaged buildings, but it also comes from corn. And it turns out, living in Mexico, no surprise, that's the staple food. This guy's doing corn tortillas 5 times a week. Now it's a little bit of a tangent, but what I'm saying here is that we try to make the connection between what we see in your body and then is that coming from buildings, which a lot of cases it is it coming from diet or is it both? So I'll pull this up and I'll show you. I want to show you the fumonisins because the lab now, which is cool. I don't think the Mosaic does it yet, but
You're talking about the lab for the urine mold toxins?
yeah, can you see that there?
Yeah, let's pull it up. What lab are you using for the urine mold toxins? You were using the Mosaic still, right?
I like Mosaic, but this guy here had already run Vibrant.
Oh, got it.
So
Yeah, Vibrant. Yep.
I just said that's fine. Let's just use what you've got here. And so you can see here that he had high levels. Now, this is what they found in his home as well. So we do know for this guy, it is a home exposure. His his cabinets, his bathroom vanities. I mean, he said, "quote literally the mold was everywhere." So this was like a major issue in the home. And his wife, and actually they lost their baby, three-month old baby, and of course it was called SIDS. But if you
Of
look at the
course.
literature, if you type in mold or mycotoxin SIDS, you'll find there is a link there. So I think this baby
Oh,
unfortunately
that's
got
sad.
poisoned as well. And so
Now, with their mold stuff, was it from a leak that they didn't know about, or was it like an acute flood that they didn't quite remediate all the way? Like, how did all this come about?
this was just a house that they loved. It was on a golf course and they just bought it sight unseen and came in there.
So, was there
And
previous mold from the previous owner?
yeah, exactly.
Was it visible, or how did they know it was there
No,
outside
it
of a
was
test?
all hidden. They had no idea till they started ripping apart the wall. So there must have been leaks years ago. They start ripping walls off, and then boom, there it is. So everything looked pretty on the surface of it, right? So that's the scary part for people is that if it's hidden in your ductwork or in the walls or behind cabinets, things like that, you could have a picture that looks fine. You could have a house that shows well, but then when you get in there, you start to have all these health issues. And the cool thing about Vibrant, look here, they say that cereal, especially corn, is a big source of that. And we know that this is toxic to the liver, definitely toxic to the kidneys. So this guy was having tons of symptoms. Like if you look at the mold symptoms list, he had everything. And so he's out of it now. He's in an Airbnb. He's feeling much better. And then now we're just going to start detoxing him and hopefully no more
And it's
fertility issues.
tough with mold, right? Because I look at it like as people like you talk to any plumber, you talk to any like GC who's like looking inside of walls in people's homes, they see stuff all the time, right? All the time. And so the question is, well, I should say, the implication is now it's easy to feel anxious and do I have to tear down every wall? And so my thing is it in the air? If it's not in the air, you're not breathing it, right? And so it's good to just do a simple air test. Put plates in all the major rooms of your home, especially the ones that you're in, master bed, master bath, kids' room, family room, kitchen, and just get a good air sample from a plate test. Because if it's in the air, after a few hours of that plate being out, it's going to lay on that plate. You're going to close it up. It's going to culture. It's going to grow. You're going to see. And again, it's not just the mold, it's the mold mycotoxin. So for this one, that was a mycotoxin based mold, right? So
Yeah.
was that in the Aspergillus family or Fusarium? What family was it in?
Let's go back to it. Fumonisins.
And they overlap too. So like Aspergillus and Penicillium, there's like 300 different mycotoxins they can produce, and they overlap.
I think fumonisins are just Fusarium. Let me pull it back up.
Fusarium, okay.
Can you see it?
Let's see here.
Yeah.
Yep, hold up.
Yeah, here we go. Fumonisin B1 and then B3 they tested. Okay, yeah. So it looks like different types of Fusarium, several different types.
Fusarium. Yeah, and so I kind of get like, these rabbit holes you get with mold, right? And so I'm like, all right, let's just test the home, get a good sense of where you're at, get some air filters going either way. And a lot of times that can be enough with a lot of people. I mean, I know people that have known moldy wall issues due to leaks that they could not remediate due to the fact that their landlord wasn't willing to do anything about it. And we tested pre and we tested post with dehumidifiers and air filters, and we were able to get the mold level down, mycotoxin wise, 80, 90%. So yeah, you want to definitely address it if you can, if it's your home. But if you can't, you can still do some things to help. Either way.
Yeah, and I want to
And,
show the impact on the gut too.
and you're still a big fan of doing a lot of the plate testing to assess at least the individual areas, right?
Yeah, I love the Petri dishes. I think it's great. You could do them yourself for $3, or you could do them with the lab for maybe 20 to $30 a piece, and it's totally worth it because some of the like the more vacuum type air samples, like if you hire a home inspector to do it, if they bring this little device where it's got like a trap that it's like a trap spore test, those we've seen some false negatives, and so just for the cost and the sake of ease, I think the Petri dishes are amazing. And I would say too, like if you're going to go buy something, if you have a inspection period, you can do it. If you do it quick, you can do it during the inspection period. If you're under contract for something, or if you're going to go lease or rent somewhere, you should be able to tell the person, the rental agent, if you've got a realtor helping you to seek out a rental, you should be able to tell them, hey, look, I need an hour. I'm going to do this Petri dish test. I'm going to hang out here, see how I feel. If you have known sensitivities, right now, like you said, the quote average person who's maybe less reactive, maybe they're going to go and feel totally fine. Maybe they don't have a rapid change in symptoms. For me, I can tell you in a few minutes. I'll go, yep, something's not right in here. But for people that are not sensitized like me, they may have no idea. And so that's why I would lean on those Petri dishes. But pull up this stool too, because I wanted to show what's happening as a collateral damage to the gut, because his diet, besides the corn tortillas, his diet was super, super animal based, just meats, berries, organic veggies. Like he's doing amazing on the diet piece, except for the corn. But if you can show his stool test here, this is
Yeah,
just
go look at it.
this is just a hair of the full report. The full report is like 40 pages or something. But look at this. I mean, he has occult blood and his zonulin is high, meaning the gut's leaky. So to
Gut
me,
permeability,
I didn't see anything else really in his labs. He didn't have parasites. He didn't have worms. He didn't have any major infection. And so for
right?
me to see all this, I'm like, dude, I guess this is the mold affecting the gut, because we've seen it before in children as well. Children that diet's fine, but they show up with occult blood.
That makes sense. Now, when we look at mold and we do testing for mold, I'm always a big fan of at least doing some NAC or some glutathione to really challenge the test, to really help provoke it. A lot of tests say don't do it, but I've seen too many people time and time again, they can't push the toxins out in their urine because part of the urine is essentially kidney detoxification. The stool is essentially gut detoxification. A lot of mold and metals come out via the gut, but it's just easier to test the urine, right? It's just more user friendly. And so a lot of companies say, hey, don't use the NAC or glutathione. But my thing is, people that have mold issues tend to have low glutathione,
Yeah.
right? And then if you can't run these if you go back to that test again, pull it up again, Evan.
Let me see. You,
And this
you
is
want to
where I
look at
get
the mold or the gut one?
the mold one, the first one.
Yeah. All right.
There was one thing on that test that was really important I wanted to highlight for the listeners. So I'll pull this back up. Look right here. See here. Was it say it? Here you go, right there. Detox suggest.
Yeah.
So Fusarium involves glutathione conjugation and glucuronidation and NAC, right? And these nutrients. So guess what? An upregulation of glutathione S transferase 1. So if these pathways aren't working and they're already weak, how are we going to push the mold toxins in the urine?
Yeah, you
Right?
will see false negatives. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And I think people are worried about maybe levels being too high. What's the lab's rationale for saying, hey, don't do the glutathione? What's the rationale?
I think it was messing with some other markers. I'll have to look back because we had emailed the labs too and asked them like, "Hey, what's the deal? Why'd you change it? Because it used to be okay, now it's not." I think it was messing with like Krebs cycle markers or something, mitochondrial data. There was some reason there. I don't think it was a fear of like over sensitivity to the results or something like that.
I recommend at least NAC as a simple way, just because a lot of times glutathione cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. People don't know this; it's too big. But NAC can, and then convert the glutathione in the brain. And so I like glutathione is still great, but I definitely prefer NAC and glutathione together because that way I know I'm going to get the NAC crossing the blood-brain, converting to glutathione in the brain, thus helping with brain detox as well.
Yeah, and sauna, exercise. I mean, something like that before you do the urine test is a good
Yes,
idea.
sauna exercise may not be enough unless you're doing a really hard, sweaty workout outside in the heat. But in general, yeah, if you're really sensitive, 20, 30 minutes of sauna, that can be great. And then obviously stay off binders, right? Don't take any zeolite, chlorella, activated charcoal, bentonite clay, fulvic minerals, because you'll bind it up in the stool. We want to see it in the urine, right?
Yeah. So back to the home. We're
Yeah.
calling this healthy home essentials.
Yes.
There's still people using plug-in air fresheners. There's still people using Febreze, odor eliminators, bleach, all sorts of crazy antiseptic, very, very potent antibacterial sprays, disinfectants. Like this stuff is toxic and most of it has endocrine disrupting chemicals in it. So I just want to point that out. I know we talk a lot about mold and air filtration, but as our friend JW said, he told me once, he's like, look, you could have a 55-gallon barrel of gasoline in the middle of your living room, but even the world's best air purifier is not going to fix that. Like you've got to
Correct.
actually get it out. And so for people listening, if you're still using any of that stuff, plug in air fresheners of any kind, don't think of it as air freshener. It's air poison. It's straight up. It's air poison. It doesn't belong.
100%.
And candles as well. I know candles are very trendy. I actually posted a video about the mold candle that went pretty viral. And I think it's just because people are drawn towards candles. It's cute, it's cozy. But in general, candles are a big source of toxicity right up there with the plug in air fresheners.
100%. And if you're a female or male still using perfume or cologne, stop that. I mean, females, you can either do lavender is a nice feminine smell, rose is a nice feminine smell. You can even do like some frankincense is a little bit more neutral. If you're a guy, you can do sandalwood or cedar, or even like a little bit of a citrus scent. Like I like a little bit of a citrus or cedar or lime kind of scent, just very, very gentle. And typically I'll have it in my deodorant. I'm a big fan of Schmidt's deodorant because it's just clean. There's no toxins in it. Tends to have a little bit of an essential oil, so it gives you a tiny hint of a smell. You get some people that literally want to create like a 20-foot zone of their smell. Like where they walk, it's like you can smell them 20 or 30 feet away. It's like, whoa,
Well, you
you
know
know?
what's scary? There's a guy, I've seen him, he's like a trending character online. He calls himself his fragrance is literally in his like his social media name, okay? This guy here, 35 years old, he calls himself Jeremy Fragrance. And so
Oh my God.
he's got 3 million followers on his Instagram page here, and all of his videos are based around him essentially dousing himself in different colognes or other fragrances. And then he's got this little stick where he'll like walk up to women. Who knows if it's staged or not, but he'll walk up to women on the street and sniff them. You're wearing da da da. And it's like this big like obsession with fragrance. I'm like, how long until this guy gets absolutely poisoned from all this fragrance? Eventually, what'll happen is you can develop what's called tilt, toxin induced loss of tolerance. And so I think eventually this guy's unfortunately going to have to learn the hard way, and he's going to be reacting very, very strongly to these fragrances: dizziness, headaches, vertigo, skin reactions, eczema. These are the reasons that families will switch their children from, say, scented Tide to unscented. It usually takes some sort of symptom to pop up, but I don't know how this guy's going to keep doing what he's doing. Like literally, you check it out. It's just every video is about fragrance. Puff, puff,
Yeah.
puff.
Well, I mean, just look at the people with mold, right? Only about a third of the population has the various HLA-TQ genotypes to be sensitive to mold. Like it's like the one or the three or both. And so not all, I mean, you could have a moldy home and 2/3 of the population is going to be fine. And so I think that would apply to the toxifying smells from cologne, perfumes, dryer sheets. Most people are not going to have a problem. But again, it's still going to be a load on your detoxification system. That's why when it comes to home stuff, my thing is very simple, right? Free and clear, unscented laundry detergent. That's like a no brainer. You can use wash soda to get any moldy smells or kind of dank, nasty smells out of your clothes. Have it soak for an hour beforehand. So wash soda is basically baking soda for your washing machine. And no dryer sheets. There's no reason to ever have dryer sheets. Dryer sheet smells are the most nastiest thing. They're so chemically laden. You can easily put like a static ball in there, and that'll decrease the static and make the clothes a little bit softer. And you can do wash soda to help as well, but that'll decrease some of the the staticky things that people will use the dryer sheets for. But there's no reason to add that level of chemical load to your clothes.
Now they're even adding like scent boosters as well. I've seen that where
Crazy.
they're trying to add even more fragrance on top of the existing fragrance, and you could smell these people from, 100 miles away. And the problem is too. So, you and I've talked about like Whole Foods delivery service. So I've noticed if we were to do a Whole Foods delivery, if the person has scented laundry on their bodies or they have air fresheners in their car, the bags of food will come with the smell of perfume or air freshener from the car on those Whole Foods bags. So it's crazy. I mean, the fragrance contamination is a huge deal, even in the supermarket. So if you look at the typical steak package, those white styrofoam with the very thin plastic on top of your steaks. Let's say you go in to go buy a pack of ribeyes. Depending on your grocery store, depending on how close the meat department is to the laundry, if your grocery store has toxic laundry in it, I've been able to taste it in certain food items. Like my wife bought some oatmeal and the fragrance literally went through the cardboard box into the oats. The oats tasted like fragrance. So this is a huge issue. And this is why I try to encourage people, like, do your farmers market meats. If you got a local butcher, it can give you a better deal. But you're even getting contamination of the food supply from your supermarket, even blueberries. I got a pack of blueberries the other day from Publix. It was a smaller Publix, meaning that the laundry was closer to the produce. Organic blueberries, rinsed them well. I could taste the fragrance. Air fresheners, laundry detergent, whatever the heck was in the air was penetrating into the berries. I had to throw them away.
100%. Also, let's just talk about car smell for a minute. I mean, you go take a Lyft or an Uber, man, the people that run these things, the amount of air freshener, was it Glade or whatever, the plugins they have are like the little Christmas tree things they hang from the rearview mirror. Oh my gosh, man. Those things are the most disgusting thing. I remember like a while ago, you tried to do I think a petition to get Uber to kind of remove these air fresheners because it's just nasty. I mean, my recommendation is you can get a activated charcoal kind of like little bean bag that sits in your car that will suck up the odor. So I much rather use something that actually sucks the odor up because every car is going to have new car smell, or you're going to have the vinyl or the plastic in the car off gassing. So having some kind of either a small mini filter or using some kind of an activated charcoal kind of absorber that sucks up odor and neutralizes it is much better.
Here's my petition. This was, I believe, 7 years ago.
Yeah, it's a while ago.
I put Uber on there, no response. But here was I put all the studies here about, for example, phthalates heightened risk for childhood
Oh,
asthma,
totally.
fragrances and exposures, common chemicals affects female development. Study finds chemicals and air fresheners reduce lung function. So I had all these studies here. This was on change.org. It was titled "Tell Uber to Ban All Air Fresheners and Fragrances in Their Drivers' Vehicles." Hey, we had 3,300 signed supporters of it, but they never responded. And there's new papers coming out now saying that one of the main reasons that young females are entering puberty sooner, the average age of puberty onset's 8 or 9 years old now, which is terrifying because my grandma didn't start her period until she was 15 and a half, almost 16 years old. They're saying now this early puberty in children is highly linked to fragrances, and specifically the endocrine disrupting components of those fragrances that are plugging into the estrogen receptor. So it's a wild world, and I wish more people took it serious. As of yesterday, I saw a video trending on TikTok of some spray that people are now putting. It's a dark bottle. I'll try to see if I can find it. But now the newest trend, you might not be aware of this because I just saw this myself, but people are now taking fragrance oils and they're putting it into their vents in their air conditioning system. So they're taking their HVAC furnace filter out, they're dousing it in this fragrance oil and plugging it in. And then the caption is something like, "Here's how to get your home smelling amazing."
I'm going to put a link here. I mean, the easy thing is get your car air filter changed or at least keep it clean. You can vacuum it out and then get a good activated carbon filter that you can put in your car. It's going to just soak up the toxins. Here's one that I like that's good. And it just hooks right on the back of your car seat. It just hangs there in the back. So when air circulates, it moves through it. The carbon in there, it's from bamboo charcoal, and it just grabs the toxins out. So that's a simple, easy thing you can do. Most people's thought process in this is let's provide more chemicals and phthalates and nastiness to overpower the smell that's in there versus hey, let's just absorb the actual compound that's there that's creating the odor.
Dude, are you hearing what I'm saying about these people and their HVAC vents? I mean, this is insane. People are literally putting fragrance oil in their furnace filters in their home to make this fragrance get sucked through the entire ductwork of their home system.
It's
Imagine
not
trying
good.
to imagine trying to buy a house from somebody that's doing that.
Well, just who knows what that's gonna do in regards to creating like fuel for mold down the road. But I mean, you could at least do a vaporizer and just in a room put like a drop of essential oil in a little bit of water and have it vaporize in that room gently in that room. You could do something like that. But
Here
you
it
know,
is. Pull
I'm a
here.
bigger fan of just having nothing, just a nice clean smell.
All right, so check this out. Here's the video right here. If you can pull this up, I want to show people this. You'll just show them a few seconds of it. This is a video clip here. This has 3.5 million views, and
See?
the caption. Will you pull this up real quick?
Yep. Pull you up here. Got it.
So the caption. Look at this guy. He's dousing his HVAC filter with oil, and it says here, "Smells like you walked into a fancy hotel." And this is all synthetic oil. This is not even essential oils, which in regards to pets and kids, I don't even know if it was natural if I'd want to put it in there.
But the problem is oil is going to clog the filter, and that's going to one make your HVAC have to work harder because there's less pores for it to push through, and then the pores are not going to be able to grab the debris now because they're all clogged up. So you're much better off just having a very portable, like you have like a little essential oil, then you have the little sticks that soak in and just gently move it up, or you have a gentle vaporizer. That's much better as long as you're using a clean essential oil from a top-notch company that it's just the essential oil, no added chemicals to it. Thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
meaning no fragrance oil, and I've even seen some
Right.
companies. So TJ Maxx, Home Goods, some of these like stores targeted towards women that are buying goodies. You'll see essential oil bottles. It looks like essential oil, but it's actually fragrance oil. So make sure you
Yes.
read the labels because there's so much saturation in the market when it comes to essential oils now. There are several brands that we like. We could try to put some links for you guys, but uh, Eden Garden was a really good brand on Amazon years ago. I'm assuming they're still there. They made some good, clean essential oils. And if you had Whole Foods, I know their manufacturer, Whole Foods actually has a decent brand at a decent price of essential oils if you need fragrance. Now, the easiest way, you don't need it. But if you just absolutely have to have a smell, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and then you can get these just activated charcoal gel, and it just you open it up on the top. I'll put them in the chat here. Activated charcoal gel, and it just opens up, and then basically you could put it in your bathroom. Just put it in the corner of your bathroom, and it's going to just soak up any smell or odor. Or an easy one for the fridge. Guess what? Just get some baking soda, right? Cut the top off, leave it open, leave it in the back corner of your fridge. The baking soda is going to soak up any of the smell. So I much rather do things that actually absorb the smell, not cover up the smell, right?
Yeah.
I remember back in like football days, like 3 days, and like we're like having overnight camps. And I remember like all the stinky freaking football equipment was all in our room, shoes, and there was one guy that would go over and just cover it up with remember was it Glade?
Yeah,
The spray?
Febreze.
Febreze, and we'll just cover
Oh,
everything up in Febreze. Or do you remember like the Axe spray? Shh, remember that stuff? And
terrible.
that was pure chemicals, and we were just covering up all this BO equipment. Like we should have just like took it and like put it outside, but instead we just like Febrezed it all. So bad, right? Like you look back at things, and you're like, oh my gosh, wow. So simple ways to do it is just actually use chemicals or use natural compounds like absorbing compounds like charcoal to soak up the actual smell. Use healthier unscented cleaning products like wash soda, like your either free and clear 7th generation or your free and clear by all makes a good one that's eczema society approved. There's some better ones that have very low chemicals and low sensitivity compounds in there. So if you have skin issues or your immune system's already sensitive, you can at least decrease those chemicals and use a good, clean, top-notch essential oil brand, whether it's like doTERRA or Young Living. Just make sure the ingredients are top-notch and use a gentle either vaporizer or use one of the gentle sticks. And do not put it through your HVAC system. That's not good at all.
Yeah, and you could look up EWG online. I think they
Yeah.
have an app as well. So if you're really like, I absolutely have to have something fragranced, they'll have some good options there. They'll rate it A, B, C, D, E, F, and they'll give you some ratings on different products, deodorants, toothpaste, that sort of thing. So just browse there and I think you'll be fine. But in
And if
general,
you're a female too or male, get one of the roll-on ones. So if you want something like maybe you just do just on the side of your chin or the side of your arm here, right? Side of your neck, right? And just a gentle roll-on one that's going to be like, let's say you do frankincense. Well, that's actually anti-inflammatory and healthy for my body. So, but it also has a nice odor. So try to choose something that your body's actually going to do well with internally, because everything you put on your skin goes in your body. So when you put nasty chemicals on your body or on your clothes, you're going to absorb that in your bloodstream too. So at least choose things that you know are going to be healthy for you.
yeah, and the roll-ons, those are gonna be diluted already, so those are gonna be perfect. Those are gonna
Yes.
have, like, fractionated coconut oil or something in them.
They'll be in a good carrier oil. There'll be an MCT thing. Like when my son hurt his AC joint, we were doing red light infrared laser, and I had a roll on frankincense with MCT. And so we would roll it on there. I'd massage it, and I'd use my percussor, and I'd do the laser on it. And that was super helpful.
Cool, cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, so in general, check your furnace filters. I think it's a good idea maybe once a year if you can get a good price on it, have an HVAC contractor open up your unit. I had a video on my Instagram page recently that went pretty viral because people have no idea what they don't see. And if your HVAC unit is not being opened up, that moisture can build up and you can actually get microbial growth on the inside door of your unit and then also on your actual blower fan, meaning when your system kicks on, if that blower fan is contaminated, it's going to be pumping stuff into your breathable air. So I think it'd be great to have that taken apart, and that can be professionally cleaned by these guys too. So even if you have air purifiers, if the source, let's say coming out of your vents, is contaminated, you're kind of like you got the nail in your foot still. So yeah, I mean, I've got an air purifier right here in my corner of my office, but if I have stuff pumping through the vents that's poisoning me, that's an issue. So check your ducts, ask them, make sure they don't use any toxic chemicals if they do offer like a duct cleaning service. A lot of times it's just mechanical. They'll just basically come through and suck everything out. But just make sure they're not putting chemicals or fragrances in your system. And to me, that pays dividends because the average person is indoors so often now. We're not
Yeah.
farmers much anymore. And so we spend a lot of time indoors. So you want to make sure the air quality is pristine.
And like for me right here, I'll just pull it up here 1 second. This is what I have running right here, right? This is my Austin Air. This I have
Yeah, you
three of
got the
these.
big
Well,
boy.
I have two big ones and then two small ones and then two air doctors in a
Yeah.
molecule. So I try to keep my air pristine. But you can also run a plate, run it by one of the inlets, where the air is coming out of your HVAC. Leave a plate right around there. Keep your air filters off for that hour or two, and then you can at least see, is there some junk coming out of it near that plate that's growing. That will tell you, okay, maybe I should get my HVAC cleaned out with a HEPA vacuum.
Yeah, 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 and I love the Austin. We've got several of those too. The Molecule I got rid of because they're in a lawsuit now where it's like a class action deal where apparently it's not as good as they say it was. So when I would stand in front of the Molecule, I would get kind of weird. Like my brain, I almost had brain fog when that Molecule was on. So maybe that's why that technology, maybe it was emitting something. It's not good for you. I don't know. I haven't read the details, but apparently Molecule's going through that right now.
Well, the issue with the molecule is when you just look at like the surface area of the pleats of these filter, like the Austin has big pleats, or even like the Air Doctor's got pretty good size pleats. The Austin has the best. It's going to be a little bit more expensive out of the gate, but your filters in the last 5 years. My recommendation is go in every month or two with like a really good vacuum and just vacuum it out just to get the big pieces of hair or dust out of the pre-filter and the actual filter. That will extend the life of these filters quite a bit.
Yeah, and if you have the ability, if your outdoor air is fresh, don't be afraid to open doors and windows. You just don't want to have them open all the time. I had a guy out in California. He lived near the coast, so there's massive, massive increase in humidity at night. So this dude loves sleeping with the windows open, but then his bedroom is 80% humidity. His clothes in his closet started growing mold on them. So
Oh,
so fresh air is fine, but in doses, especially if you're in a humid environment, you got to eventually shut the windows, shut the doors, get the dehumidifiers running because this dude literally had to throw out his clothing.
and my wife and I had a conversation about this recently. We had a nice day where it was in the low 70s. She opened up the windows, and our dehumidifiers trick on at like 40, they trick on at 45%. Until it goes above 45, it tricks on automatically. So it was like at 41, 42. She had the doors open for like 2, 3 hours. It was like 65, 68% humidity. I'm like, we can't do that. You got to look on your Apple app and just see what the outdoor humidity is first. Ideally, if your dew point's in the 50s, you're probably pretty good. And then you can look at the relative humidity on the Apple app. It'll tell you dew point and relative humidity. So if it's like low 60s, upper 50s, you're probably okay.
Yeah, if it,
Humidity, ideally at least low 50s for relative humidity.
Yeah, and if it's transient, it's all right. Like, I'll open the
Not a
back
big
door
deal.
this morning. If I'm cooking a steak inside and I'm smoking the place out, I'm gonna have doors, windows open, and we'll get up close to 70%. But with the combination of the air conditioning or the heater plus dehumidifiers, usually within a few hours, you can get back down into a safe range. But I love the idea of fresh air. Just don't leave it open 24/7.
Yeah, not 24/7. A couple hours isn't a big deal, but if you take your humidity up 20% and then you extrapolate that to all day long, that could be a problem. And usually in the fall to winter months, as we're kind of moving into, usually the fall and winter and early spring are fine anyway, depending on where you live. Right, you're in Florida, so what's the humidity down where you're at now? Probably
I'll
still
ch-
pretty high.
I'll check. It got back pretty moist again. We had a dry spell, which is really amazing. Today, right now, 86% humidity right now.
Yeah, so like right now it's 74% humidity, but the dew point's 42. So the dew point's at least good. Dew point's going to basically factor in humidity and temperature together. Relative humidity is more relative, I should say, more relevant to a house because your house is kind of a stable temperature. So your house is always going to be in that low to mid 70s, maybe upper 60s, and so humidity relative matters more because that temperature is going to be static. When you go outside, temperature and humidity are going to shift, and the dew point gives you more of an idea of humidity plus temperature equaling a comfort. Usually, once you get in the 50s or low 60s, it's pretty comfortable. Less sticky. When you sweat, it actually evaporates off you, so you feel cooler.
Now, for the few people listening in Costa Rica or somewhere else where you're completely not using conventional air conditioning systems like we do in the US, some of these places, they're completely open air. And they're like, what? How do I apply this advice? I'm living in a place with no windows and doors, basically. They're literally just living in like a roof and they just have fresh open air. I have talked with people where they're still having mold growth on their shoes and their clothes. So basically, what a couple of these people, Ari Witten, he's down in Costa Rica. I remember talking to him years ago, and he told me he had to basically have a separate section of his house that was conditioned just for like clothes and shoes because the rest of it was open air. So you're just constantly exposed to 80% humidity. You're going to have mold growing on everything. So we had this separate little box. I don't know. I don't think I could live that way. I just think it's
No,
too risky.
but I don't understand what's the reason he couldn't, close it off with like doors and windows and stuff that close.
He probably could. I don't know. It's been a few years since I had the conversation with him, but I've heard that a lot of homes, even the nice homes, that's just the style of them. I had a client in Hawaii, same thing. He's out on the island. I mean, it was like a mega mansion, but it had no HVAC. It's just pure open air, everything.
See, if that were me, I would at least get some solar power, like a generator thing, like a Jackery that's solar power because there's a lot of sun, and just have a bunch of dehumidifiers, portable ones there, and just keep it dumped. Because I mean, I guarantee you, if you're probably sucking out 4 or 5 gallons a day easily, it'll at least keep the humidity a little bit lower.
Yeah, these
It's
guys
something.
are. It's weird, it's like okay, we evolved outside, but when I test these people, they all have mold colonization on paper too. So it's this strange thing for me because it's like, okay, did our ancestors just all have mold growing in their sinuses if they lived in a human environment all the time? It's kind of a tangent, but it does make me wonder, like what happened 10,000 years ago living in the jungle? Where was the everything was so diluted that it didn't matter?
I think everything was so diluted, and you don't get the same kind of mycotoxins from like the decaying of branches and trees and leaves. You don't get the same kind of decay in regards to mold and mycotoxins than you do inside of a home. I had JW on and Jeff Bookout and another gentleman on, and we talked about kind of inside versus outside. And that's why when it's good to do a mold test, testing your home out, it's good to do an outside air sample as well.
Yeah, definitely. That way you can see, okay, we've got a bunch of aspergillus inside,
Yes.
but outside we've got
Outside, it's okay.
different types. So
And you may see different molds outside, like cladosporium, microsporium. These are molds that are like they don't produce mycotoxins, and so it's unique when you're inside. And a lot of times, you just don't have good airflow, and you're going to have drywall, and you're going to have all kinds of other materials that are going to be problematic. I mean, if you're inside and you have like, let's say, a cement wall and maybe a epoxy floor, right? And you have all the extra insulation on the inside of the wall that could grow mold, then you're probably in a better place, right?
definitely, yeah. I mean, if you can see an ICF home, insulated concrete form, there's a lot of those houses down here in Florida. And yeah, generally I think those houses are safer. I mean, the less stuff for mold to grow on. A stick built home is probably the biggest issue. And I know a lot of countries laugh at us for doing stick built homes in America, but that's typically the way it's done here. We don't do concrete as a general rule.
I agree. But in general, let's kind of re-summarize some things. So from a home standpoint, we could even go into cleaners, right? Good clean cleaners are great. I like Citrusolve, a citrus-based cleaner, or you can just do diluted white vinegar is an excellent degreaser. Natural ways to keep surfaces clean. We have odor protection. We have either a nice clean essential oil. Choose a reputable brand. Look at the ingredients. You can use the wicking sticks that give off a scent, or a gentle diffuser, or just have really good air filters. And you can even use some of the activated charcoal, activated carbon little bean bags. You can place them around that will soak up a lot of the debris. Again, my Austin filter has 15 pounds of activated charcoal already in that. So we're already doing that if you have an activated charcoal filter. Air Doctor has that too. So you'll get some of that filtration through your air filter. You can put them in your car. You can put them by your laundry where your dirty laundry is. You can put them by your boot bench where your kids keep their shoes. These are all great ways to keep the odor down naturally. We can use detergents that are free and clear, no extra chemicals. We can use wash soda to suck up, moisture and mildew out of your clothes that may be sitting there too long. So these are great natural ways to keep your house cleaner. We talked about looking at the HVAC, either HEPA vacuum in your HVAC. Make sure the vacuum unit, when they come in, is outside the home so it doesn't leak and off gas things. We talked about our air filters, our favorite ones. Austin Air is a great one. Air Doctor is a great one. There's some other good ones too, but that's a good kind of first start. What else, Evan?
Talked about the candles.
Candles,
Try
yep.
try to go fragrance free if you can. Try to look for a beeswax natural candle
Yep.
if you're gonna burn candles, like, if that's just a cozy thing for you. And then, obviously, your soap, your shampoo, your conditioner. Make sure all your personal care stuff's clean as well. Ladies, there's still a lot of fragrance added to makeup. So look at your makeup, your foundation, all that stuff. Not only are they adding fragrances, but when you see glitter, glitter is not fairy dust, okay? It's
No.
plastic. It's microplastics.
Yes. Stay away from
So
it.
like you'll see these ladies with this kind of glitter shimmer added, that's likely just plastic particles. So I would definitely work on that. Fresh air is good in doses. So if you have a nice dry day, open up. It's fine. Even if you don't have a dry day. Today it's moist out there. I'm still going to open these windows, and then the dehumidifiers are going to get ripping. And then I would say consider maybe once a year you could either burn some mold candles. We'll put links for these things. You could do the misting solution, which is a citrus oil based product. And then there's the fog option. I fogged my house a couple weeks ago just to be safe.
Yep.
And I feel always better. And then even my kids' school teachers, when I fogged the school building, the one guy at the school, he says, I don't have to use as much allergy medication after you fog. I'm like, yeah, because allergies are a reactivity to this environment. So
Oh, yeah.
that's a whole tangent, but it's
And
important.
And I tell any of my patients who are in a position where they're like a teacher, right? Most of these schools, they're old, they're moldy. At least get a mold candle. At least get a really good air filter and maybe some activated charcoal pods, little bean bags for your room. At least do that. If you can do a gentle fogging, awesome. But at least do those simple things. That's going to keep the odor down significantly.
Yeah, we did end up getting the fire department to come and all that. So, I mean, who knows? In the school building, I guess you could set off the sprinklers. That'd be kind of wild. But yeah, in general, schools are a problem. We have a lot of teachers as clients, and they're very reactive. So I just hope that this helps people. And if it does, share it with somebody. Share it with somebody you know. If you don't want to be the bearer of bad news that fragrance is poison, let us be the bearer of that news. So send them this podcast. We'd be happy to talk with them. If you need more help, deeper investigation with your health issues, whether it's chronic fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, depression, infertility problems, gut issues, skin problems, sleep problems, reach out to us and we can help. You can reach Dr. J at justinhealth.com. That's worldwide consultations. We have international distributors. So no matter where you are, we'll be able to help you get to the root cause of your health issues by running functional medicine labs and then creating laser targeted protocols, which can it could be herbs, different botanicals, vitamins, minerals, whatever we need to use on the natural medicine side to get you better. The diet, the lifestyle, we integrate it all. So Dr. J, justinhealth.com, or me, evanbrand.com, and we're happy to help you all.
Absolutely. And most doctors and even functional medicine people will not look at things this holistically. So it's really good. Like I tell patients, when we dive in deep, you have this inflammation or this histamine bucket. People talk about histamine, right? But any type of antigen, any foreign molecule you're bringing in, whether it's water, food, air, cleaning products, hygiene products, any of that, that's going into your histamine slash inflammation bucket. And then we have inflammation bucket within because you have mycotoxins from the molds in your gut. You have the bacterial toxins. You have essentially histamine from the gut bacteria. So all of these things go into your bucket, either from the inside or from the outside. And so as a functional medicine doctor, we want to dive in and just like try to remove all the low hanging fruit. And that's going to take those histamines or these stressors or inflammation balls out of that bucket. And then as we get healthier, we can make that bucket bigger. So then if we add these things back in here or there, you're going to be able to adapt to it better. So that's kind of functional principles 101. And there's cost-effective ways to deal with the mold, to deal with these chemicals. I see patients getting really concerned about these $20,000 or $30,000 mold remediation bills. And maybe that happens in a hurricane when your home's left for days upon end. But there's ways we can get to this and get the water out and get things healed much faster without spending a ton of money, as long as there's not a leak that went unaddressed for years. So
Yeah.
it's kind of my take on that. And again, evanbrand.com, justinhealth.com. We see patients worldwide, and we consult on all these other home and healthy lifestyle options too, regarding mold and air and everything else. So we'll give you strategies on the most cost-effective way to address these problems.
Yeah.
Anything else, Evan?
Yeah, it's actually cheaper to test, not guess with your health. I mean, we have so many people that come to us that are taking 20, 30 supplements. They say, hey, I heard this podcast, this blog, I went to this naturopath. Here's the 20 supplements I'm taking, and yet they still feel terrible. And we're going to trim that list down to a much smaller list. We're going to save you from building up a supplement graveyard, and therefore you can actually get better results faster. So you do spend a little bit of money to get some labs done, but you're actually getting the data you need. I even had a client yesterday. They went to a functional medicine doctor, right? I'm like, okay. And what was their protocol for these gut issues? All antibiotics, rifaximin, and this and
Crazy.
that. And I'm like, what do you mean? How are they functional then? How are they calling themselves functional? So we are in a time where functional medicine is becoming a trendy word. And that means you have a lot of medical doctors, conventionally trained MDs, that are now doing functional medicine. They still use the same old antibiotics they used in the regular practice. Now they're just saying it's functional. And so I just want to call that out, that that's not really what I would consider functional medicine. I like more natural based functional medicine, and rifaximin is not the tool I'm going to use to fix a gut bug.
Exactly. And my whole thing with it too is you have the word like integrative or holistic. Like, are you holistic? Like, what is holistic? Holistic just means I treat the whole person, right? But if I'm treating the whole person but not getting to the root cause, what good is that, right? And so I like the word root cause medicine. Are you getting to the root cause, right? Because if you're not getting to the root cause, then the patient's not going to get better. And also the thing is, there may not be just one root cause. That's the problem, because you have the functional medicine guy for the thyroid or for the gut, but you may have 10 other underlying root causes that are happening in parallel with everything else. And so if you're just seeing the gut guy who's focused on SIBO and these probiotics, and that's it, and like that's their lane, and they're like this, right? They're incredibly myopic about it, but they're doing a good job at addressing it holistically and from a functional medicine principles. But there's other root causes that are being unaddressed. That's why root cause medicine is key, and there could be multiple root causes that need to be addressed simultaneously or layered.
Yeah,
So
so for marketing purposes and on social media, it's much easier for a practitioner or a coach, whoever, to just label themselves like animal-based coach. And all you're going to get is like eat more steak and eggs. The thyroid coach, it's like get more selenium, Brazil nuts. The SIBO guys, like do these prebiotics and do this elemental diet. Like you're only going to get the snippets. And so just understand that for marketing purposes and for social media, business coaches teach these people to create a niche, and
yes,
that's not necessarily gonna get you better. So I just wanna make sure you
yes.
see that there's more to that than this little avenue.
And when I tell patients that are coming to see me, it's like, hey, I may do a video on thyroid and this because thyroid and this symptom, or gut SIBO and this, because people type in a symptom when they go online, right? They're not typing in broad general words because they won't be able to find what they're looking for. They're typing in specific symptoms. So it's okay if you find a doctor connecting content to a symptom, but you say, hey, are we addressing all the root causes? Are there any other root causes that you see, let's say, not being addressed in our protocol right now? What else can we do? So it's good to look at everything and kind of create that priority list, to make sure we're checking everything off one by one.
Yep, and we love doing it. So reach out if
Yeah.
you need help. Dr. J, justinhealth.com, evanbrand.com. Reach out. Don't be afraid. We won't bite, and we'll help you get to the root
Yep.
cause of your health issues.
And please share with family or friends. There's a lot of you that have family or friends that they have that aunt that just douses themselves in perfume, or they have the Glade plugins, or we're Febrezing stuff, or we're just, the home just doesn't smell that great. Let's at least get a good air filter. Maybe you get that person a good HEPA filter with a activated charcoal filter on it for Christmas, right? Maybe that's the gift you give just to help the air quality. So think of just one thing you can do. Don't get overwhelmed. We talked about a lot of things, right? So hope you guys enjoyed. And Evan, awesome chatting, brother.
Cheers. Take
Take
care.
care, y'all. Bye.